Hey, what up, guys? Coming at you this morning with the what's next on former welterweight champion Kell Brook. Kell Brook's currently competing at super welterweight. That's 154 pounds. He returned to action after a 14-month layoff on Saturday, February 8th, when he main evented a DAZN card from the United Kingdom. That's where he's from. And he took on unknown Mark DeLuca and scored a 7th-round knockout win, broke him down, knocked him out impressively. But the big question now is, what's next for Kell Brook? Well, Kell Brook is one of the rare guys that main events a card, but is not in the top 10 of the 154-pound division. I dropped him out pretty much because he hasn't really done anything much at all in the last 3 years. Probably his claim to fame in the last 3 years was his TKO loss to Errol Spence Jr. in what was a good fight. That was at welterweight, and that was in May of 2017. So it's been damn near almost 3 years. I'm big on what you've done in your last 3 years. I don't like to go before that. I think the last 3 years is a good definition of how you've done as a fighter recently. And Kell Brook just hasn't really done much. He's been very inactive. And, he came back, got the win. But so what? Who is Mark DeLuca? Nobody. What's he going to do next? He says he wants a title shot soon. Is he going to come back this year and take on a contender? Or is he going to get a title fight later in the year? Let's run through the top 10 and see what could possibly be next for Kell Brook, the former champion. We start with number 1, Jermell Charlo, the reigning WBC champion. I think this fight could be possible, but Charlo has some other better options. Charlo's probably looking at a third fight with Tony Harrison. He could stay in-house and take on somebody else. Kell Brook, though, not a bad name to get on his resume, but Brook hasn't really done much lately, so I don't think it would mean much to Charlo to get a win over Brook here. And he's taking some risk against a highly skilled fighter like Brook. I'm leaning towards I don't see this one next for Brook. Number 2 is unified champion Jason Rosario. Rosario looks like he's obligated to make a immediate rematch against J-Rock Williams. If that doesn't come through, I think he'll probably end up fighting Jermell Charlo in a unification bout. But haven't heard anything yet, but I really don't see this fight being next for Brook. Number 3 is, I'm drawing a blank. Number 3 is J-Rock Williams, the former unified champ. One way or the other, I don't see this fight happening. J-Rock either has an immediate rematch with Jason Rosario, or he's going to, take some time off and then come back and do a tune-up bout, and Kell Brook is not going to be a part of those plans, so I don't see that one. Number 4 is former unified champion Jarrett Hurd. Hurd's looking for an opponent, for next. It's afraid to fight him, but, that's not afraid to fight him, but I don't see Kell Brook being that guy. Brook is not going to want to take that big of a risk next. Jarrett Hurd could very well be the best fighter at 154, but, he lost his title in an upset last year, so he's on his way back, and I don't see Brook fighting him next. Number 5 is the WBA regular champion, Erislandy Lara. This one is possible, but I think Lara's probably going to get a crack at somebody in the PBC, but I don't think he'd be completely against this fight. I don't think either guy would, but is this the kind of fight that Brook wants next? I think he might want to get a tune-up fight, so I'm going to lean towards a no, and I'm also going to lean towards a no because I think Lara will probably get an opportunity against somebody in the PBC, and it's an easier fight to make. So that's what I think is going to go down. Number 6 is undefeated former champion Brian Castaño. Castaño's fighting Patrick Teixeira for the WBO title next. So this one is not in the cards between these two, unless Brook waited for Castaño towards the end of the year or later in the year to fight him after Castaño and Teixeira fight. Next at number 7 is former WBC champion Tony Harrison. I think Harrison's going to try to get back in the mix. I think Brook would be a high-risk, low-reward type fight. It'd be a big deal if he beat him, but, I think there's a lot of people that think it'd be close to a 50-50 fight. And I think Harrison's trying to get an easier way to get back into a title shot. And he also fights for the PBC, where fights are a lot easier to make. So I don't see this one. Next at number 8 is the WBO champion, Patrick Teixeira. Teixeira is making a mandatory defense of his title next against undefeated Brian Castano. So I don't see this fight being next unless Teixeira were to beat Castano and then agree to take on Kell Brook later in the year. Brook has been known to wait a long time in between fights, so that could be possible. Next at number 9 is contender Terrell Gausha, former world title challenger. I don't see Brook and Gausha unless they deemed it a WBA eliminator. Then I could see possibly these two guys going at it, but I'm going to lean towards a no. And then number 10 is former world title challenger Erickson Lubin. Lubin looks like he's fighting for an interim title next, for the WBC interim title, and I don't think Brook would want to take a risk against a young fighter with the skill of Erickson Lubin, so I don't see this one taking place. So Kell Brook's going to have his work cut out for him. He's a DAZN fighter, and this is a division that is pretty much ran by the PBC. So Eddie Hearn was willing to work with the PBC, but I think Kell Brook, because of his skill level, might be avoided by some of these guys because they could get similar names with less risk, and it's also in-house fights to fight each other instead of branching out and fighting somebody with another promoter. So I think Brook might need to put in some work to get a fight with one of these guys, and what I mean by that is stay busy, possibly get himself into some kind of an eliminator in a few months. He fought February 8th, maybe come back and fight in June or July at the latest, not loading up for a big fight towards the end of the year. So just got to wait and see, but that's the what's next on former welterweight champion Kell Brook. Hope you enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.